Paula is driving at a speed of 62 miles per hour. How far will she drive in 4 hours? This problem involves a rate. A rate describes a relationship between two different kinds of units. The word per is often used to express a rate. I can see the word per right here in our problem. When a rate is expressed using the word per, there are always units in front of the per. That's the miles right here. And there are also units that come after the per. That's hour here. Our rate in this problem is 62 miles per hour. 62 miles per hour is the speed at which Paula is driving her car. Now we know that she's going to drive for 4 hours of time. And what we want to figure out is how far she will go in that much time. How far here means how many miles. We're going to use the rate to help us figure out this problem. The rate is 62 miles per hour. "62 miles per hour" means that Paula can drive 62 miles in 1 hour. Now, Paula's actually going to drive a total of 4 hours. So let's try to picture her trip. She starts out and she drives a distance of 62 miles in her first hour. Then she drives another 62 miles in a second hour. She drives another 62 miles in her third hour of travel. And then she drives still another 62 miles in her fourth hour of travel. She's traveling a total of 4 hours, so at this point, her journey is finished. So let's try to imagine this with a car here. Paula sets out and travels 62 plus 62 plus 62 more plus 62 more miles in a total of 4 hours. Let's add up the number of miles to see how far she actually went. So Paula started out driving 62 miles in 1 hour, her first hour. And then she drove another 62 miles in her second hour. Another 62 miles in her third hour, and another 62 miles in the fourth hour. And what we'd like to do is add up the total number of miles. 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 is 6, 2 is 8. 6 and 6 and 6 and 6 is 24. So we see she drove a total of 248 miles in 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's 4 hours. Now there's a shorter way we could have figured this out. Because we're adding 62 to itself over and over, we could have just multiplied 62 by 4 to figure this out. So let's go ahead and figure this out our shorter way. What we're going to do, this shorter way, is we're just going to take 62 miles, the distance that Paula travels in 1 hour, and we multiply by 4. 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 6 is 24, and we get the total of 248 miles that she drove in 4 hours. So we know that Paula drove 248 miles in 4 hours. Let's take a few more minutes to solve this problem one more way. This other method involves looking at how the units are related to each other. The units in this problem are miles, hours, and miles per hour. This new method is especially helpful when we are working with more complicated numbers like fractions and decimals. We're going to work with the units by setting up a unit equation. Let's look at the unit equation for this problem. The unit equation involves the words for the units and not the numbers. We're just going to write the words involved and we'll add the numbers in later. To get started, we want to write down the units of the rate. That's miles per hour. If we take the units for the rate and multiply by units represented by the word after the per, that is, if we multiply by hours, we're going to end up with a result. We're going to get something that's equal to a quantity represented by the words in front of the per, miles. When I write the rate miles per hour, I just use the word hour in the singular because miles per hour represents how many miles Paula traveled in 1 hour. But when I multiply by hours, I put an S on the end because any number of hours can go right here. Now let's just think about this one more time. We took our rate, miles per hour, and we multiplied by a quantity whose units are represented by the word after the per. That's hours. We end up with a quantity on the other side of the equal sign whose units are represented by the word in front of the per. That's miles. Miles per hour times hours equals miles. Now let's go ahead and fill in the numbers. We have a value for miles per hour. That's the 62 mile per hour speed that Paula's driving at. Times, we also have a value for hours. Paula's driving for a total of 4 hours. 62 miles per hour times 4 hours equals so many miles. The number of miles, we didn't know at first. That's what we're trying to figure out. So now we've taken our unit equation and set up a missing number statement. The missing number statement shows that if we multiply 62 miles per hour times 4 hours, we'll get the number of miles that we're trying to find. That's exactly what we did and our shorter way just a few minutes ago.